I'm not sure which Hellboy movie is worse. The sequel or the first one. Or which is better. Um... So this is my view on the Hellboy movies. With Ron Perlman. Not the good ones that he did in animated. No, ones I'm not so sure what to think about them ones that he did in live action before he did the animated Hellboy movie that were actually good. Oh my god, I really wish I could have gone to Hellboy movie with Ron Perlman live action like as good as the animated Hellboy movies. It has come to my attention watching these Hellboy movies that Daniel Del Toro, director of the Hellboy movies, the first two ones that made the first two ones, doesn't give a fuck about Hellboy. Why should he? He's only the main character of his movies and the comics, and below a character from the comics and made more money from the comics than than the Totoro's movies did. And well known for the movies came out in maybe because he's an idiot. The Toro. You know, Hellboy 1, 2, and director's cut to Hellboy 1, besides theatrical cut to Hellboy 1 and 2, Hellboy 2 tells Hellboy 2 The Golden Army. I've come to realize that the troll hates Hellboy's guts. He might have not cared about in the first one, but he came to loathing him in the sequel. By the time he made the sequel. You know something? Hellboy's barely the main focus of both movies. Except when he is... Wait. No, that's the first one. I get confused. You know how the Mortal Kombat movies, the 90s movies, and live action Mortal Kombat movies, the first two Mortal Kombat adaptations from the 90s, felt more like mocking the source material rather than doing adaptation of the source material, and felt more like a spoof on Mortal Kombat without the R edge that should have gone in, but PG-13 version watered down mocking version of Mortal Kombat. The first two Mortal Kombat movies felt like that. At least they did to me. While they might be enjoyable and fun or good or whatever you hate them, love them, I don't care. I like them. However, they're not really. You don't really feel like. This is all you wanted from it. The brand of Mortal Kombat. That's how kind of feel with Rob Perlman's Hellboy movies. Rob Perlman is a great Hellboy, but in both movies he's not giving a whole lot to do. the more I'm thinking about it. Except in the sequel, he's given more to do, except when he's not. So, the opening scene of Hellboy, the first beginning half of the movie, is pretty solid because he's given much more to do of Hellboy. But then the guy in the water diver costume comes in. And he just makes everything worse than we had going for it in Hellboy 2, The Golden Army. Sort of like how the whiny asshole that was trying to steal Hellboy's girlfriend but failed miserably made everything worse in that movie. That everything that was good going for it. You know, world building and doing good character, doing good character breakdown of Hellboy's character, and all getting a perfect cast to play the main characters of the comics besides Hellboy himself. Then comes the Achilles heel. Now, in the first one, the Achilles heel was a whiny young moron. That was a bit of a sleazeball. And a bit of a Hellboy fanboy. And always wants to help Hellboy. You know, he's pretty useless. You know, one thing I just realized, I think the first Hellboy movie is actually better. Why? Well, I know a lot of people like Hellboy 2 more. I like Hellboy 1 more, come to think of it, more I'm thinking about it. And talking about it out loud. Because Hellboy was more likable and sympathetic in the first one. In the second one, he's more annoying, more wrapped in his ego than ever. And at times, you want to punch him in the second one. Because he's so annoyingly wrapped in his own fucking ego. Now that he decided to make him well known to the public. Because he doesn't listen to orders. And he somehow has gone more dumber and arrogant. With his age. He feels more like a parody of Hellboy than he did in the first one. And more lighthearted. And more dumber version of Hellboy than he did in the first one also. You know, in the first one, Hellboy says some cheesy lines like saying red meat stop while punching while punching a vehicle to make it stop to save the Achilles heel of the first Hellboy movie. But, you know, other than that, didn't happen that often. It happened very far in between. But in the sequel, holy crap, Hellboy's a whole buttload of cheesy lines that don't even sound like something that Hellboy would say from Hellboy from the comics. And honestly, I take Young Frankenstein, the entire cast from Young Frankenstein, more seriously than I'm taking Hellboy's dialogue in Hellboy 2, The Golden Army, as a grown-ass man. Hellboy, as a grown-ass man, Hellboy, that Hellboy. After the time jump, after we see his father read him the story about the Golden Army, in a flashback scene, then do the time jump again, like the first one did. Except Hellboy's a little older in the flashback before the time jump. He's a little younger kid and now no longer an infant, you know? So, somehow, the kid Hellboy in Hellboy 2 seems more mature and wiser than Hellboy's a grown-ass man in Hellboy 2 The Golden Army in the same movie. What's the story? Well, I don't think the story is really matter because it's pretty fucking inconsistent with this tone of what story it wants to tell for both movies. This inconsistent tone is all over the place. It wants to be serious and edgy, but also wants to be clumsy and goofy, and it does a poor job. Both films does a poor job balancing the thing majority of the time. So like True Lies did with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jerry Lee Curtis. But nonetheless, I do love these movies, for better or for worse. For my love of the character from Hellboy. So yeah, both movies get a 10 out of 10. And Dreadska gets a 10 out of 10 for the first one. If you want to see this all get 10 to the ones with Robin Perlman, you know? Well, the story is very convoluted and stupid. At times, it's sometimes very heartfelt and honest and decently written. That feels like they really understood the character. Part of them feels like, you know, you're just coming up with random nonsense part of the time. And you're not really sure what's the intention. If they want to do random nonsense with the studio interfering, saying, no, don't do nonsense, do the source material justice. Or is it the other way around? The studio's interfering, telling them to do nonsense, and to make more money. Whatever's in these are, you know, you're not sure whose fault is the studio's or the Toro's fault, but I don't really give a fuck whose fault is. The point is that this will lead to an actually well-written Hellboy movie called Hellboy from 2019 that has a much better representation, respectable version of the character. And the writing is actually consistent, and nothing feels like straight up like idiotic within the content of the film. Because nothing feels useless within the film of that 2019 Hellboy movie. Oh, yes. Well, that guy would give that a 10 out of 10. I would give that a 10 out of 10 for a completely different reason why I would give these Ron Perlman Hellboy movies a 10 out of 10. I would give the 2019 a 10 out of 10 for being as faithful to the character and giving the character a respect and treatment he deserves. The Ron Perlman's movies are just the opposite why I'm giving them a 10 out of 10. Both of his Ron Perlman movies as Hellboy. Well, I do like both actors that played Hellboy. Well, one from Ron Perlman and the other guy that played him in 2019's film. I gotta say, the 2019 Hellboy was better well used in his movie. Because he actually felt like he actually did something for the free act structure. And wasn't this there just to make a quick buck. Like Michael Keaton's Batman movies were. felt like when he was in the movie. Was looking as Batman. That's kind of how I feel with this movie with these movies with Ron Perlman as Hellboy. They're not here to tell you a story about this beloved character from the comics that you've grown to love. They're here to make a buck off for your money and fuck you over. And to trick you and manipulate you into thinking that they're doing it out of love. But really they're doing it out of the love that they can make with their pockets. And how much money they can put in their pockets. Not out of the love of the character. Oh, fuck me, no. They wouldn't do that. At least Guillermo del Toro wouldn't do that for Hellboy. And fuck me, I don't care if I'm saying his name wrong and mispronouncing probably. I don't care about him because I don't care about his name because I don't care about him as a person or as an artist, as a filmmaker. So fight me. I just think he's meant for making. I just think he's just making like he just wants to make dumb movies to make a quick buck, not because he actually gives a fuck about his work or anything. And that's my impersonation I get from watching his Blade 2 and his first two Hellboy movies. That he made. So yeah, Hellboy 2, The Golden Army, Hellboy from 2004. Both get us a 10 out of 10. The Ron Perlman Hellboy movies. But it's not because they did such a good job doing justice cap. It's because the exact opposite. It did such a good job of making the character into a joke. The butt of a joke. Hellboy. With Ron Perlman as Hellboy, you know? That's why they get a 10 out of 10. And they do it with style. And that's as much as praise you're going to get from me. And positive you want to get from me if I'm talking about this movie. Good night.